Elite Facts presents
7 Misconceptions about Ancient Greece.
7.
Trojan Warfare. When talking about Greek warfare, one of the most famous stories is, of course, the story of the Trojan horse. The Greeks' war with the Trojans is still one of the most famous stories in the world, and the expression Trojan horse has become well known for meaning a sneak attack disguised as a gift. The legend of Achilles also stems from this war and created the idea of the Achilles heel as a weakness. But here's the strange thing. Although this history is taught in history class during your early years at school, there's no reason to believe that the Trojan War ever actually happened. After much research, historians have found remnants of what they believe might have once been the city of Troy, and judging by the remains they found, it could have been attacked and possibly pillaged at some point, but there is no evidence to support all of the popular mythology with regard to the Trojan War story.
6.
Hades was the bad guy of Greek mythology. Thanks, Disney, for giving Hades a bad name. According to Greek mythology, he was a stand-up guy. Movies like Disney's interpretation of Hercules would have us believe that Hades, lord of the underworld who shares his name with his domain, was pretty much the devil of ancient Greek mythology. The truth of the matter is, Hades was on equal footing with Zeus and Poseidon as lord of a domain. Although Hades was in fact jealous of his brothers, he was not technically evil in Greek mythology. But in our opinion, we still think Hades is pretty evil because, well, for one thing, he was a rapist, and that's pretty much one of the evilest things you can do. But here's the thing, so were Zeus and Poseidon, but Hades gets the bad rep because Christianity drew parallels between the Greek underworld and Christian hell in order to bring pagans into the faith. Hades just so happened to be the ruler of a similar relative physical space that Satan would later inhabit and be associated with. And in all fairness, is Satan really evil? I mean, he's only punishing sinners when you really think about it. Anyway, if you're looking for the real bad guy from Greek mythology, look to Titan, Kronos, and hey, if you're looking for an evil god, most of the terror and destruction dealt to mortals was done by jealous gods like Apollo and Athena, who are often guilty of this vengeful slaughter. Every god or goddess has some myth where they unfairly eviscerate some mortal for a petty slight. As for the story of Hercules, or Heracles as the Greeks called him, depending on who tells it, Hera or Hera with the permission of Zeus is the bad guy in that story.
5.
The Greeks invented mathematics. In all fairness to ancient Greece, we do credit them for a lot of things that are a staple in today's world. Things such as democracy, philosophy, drama, mathematics. Now, bear in mind, we'll be covering their democracy later on in the list. However, we're now going to look at the way ancient Greece innovated mathematics. Now, here's the thing. Ancient Greece didn't invent the concept of math by themselves, as the invention of math can't really be credited to one culture. We see evidence of early developments in Stonehenge, Mesopotamia, China, etc. While we do credit lots of modern advancements in math to Greeks, Pythagorean theorem, anyone? The ancient Greeks learned their base in mathematics from the Egyptians. Greek scholars used to sail to Egypt and study for decades in Egypt before returning home as qualified scholars. Pythagoras may have taught us how to find the third side of a right triangle, but his people got their foundations from the Egyptians.
4.
Spartan Warriors. Okay, so the modern conception of a Spartan soldier is that they're trained to do absolutely nothing else but to fight and kill people in battle. I mean, surviving would be a nice added bonus, but war is war after all. Anyway, many people get the idea that young Spartan warriors spent all their time training and never really had any exposure to women while young. This, however, is completely false, as young Spartans, while engaged in their military education, still spent much time in activities around girls their age while growing up. And you remember earlier when we said the modern conception of these warriors was to fight and kill only? Well, of course you remember, I just said it 2 seconds ago, but again, that's false. The truth of the matter is that these Spartan warriors didn't just fight and train, they also sang, danced, and performed in plays. Spartan men also educated young Spartans when they got too old to fight themselves. Their lives weren't merely an endless fight until they died.
3.
The Olympics. The ancient Olympic Games were so popular that they are still held around the world to this very day, although it is done in a slightly different form today than it was back in its early inception. But there are some common beliefs about these games which aren't entirely true. Take, for example, that many people think of them as existing only in very ancient times, but they were still played even during Roman rule for many years. That is, until Theodosius completely scrapped the idea of the Olympics in an effort to make sure that Christianity would triumph as the religion of the Roman Empire. Also, during the original run of the Olympics, back when the event was created, women were actually not allowed to watch, let alone perform in the Olympic Games at all. Back in ancient Greece, one of the biggest differences between the games back then and now is that the Olympians competing in the event would compete completely nude and would cover themselves in olive oil to improve the quality of their skin and to make themselves more visually appealing. Now those are Olympians I can really stand behind. Wait, that doesn't sound right.
2,
The Greeks had a modern democracy. Hey, if you want to blame someone for how butchered the world's governments and democracies are, blame ancient Greece. On a serious note though, because of terms like democracy and Senate, modern Americans tend to think of their own government when they look back upon the ancient Greek world. Philosophers gave a lot of fine talk about freedom, so much that we've come to think of ancient Greece as a place populated with men like our founding fathers. In reality, freedom was a luxury for male citizens. Slaves were not free and women did not vote, so in actuality it only felt like a modern democracy if you were born to a Greek land-owning family as a boy. And then you were still required to serve in the military and attend government meetings.
1,
Greek statues. One of the main forms of art in Greece is without a doubt these chiseled statues. They were pretty much all over the place in ancient Greece. Many of the Greek statues were actually taken from Greece and placed on show in the British Museum back in the 1800s, and many of the rest have been damaged either by violence or simple wear and tear, making them hard to recognize. Now, the common misconception when it comes to these Greek statues, as well as the architecture for that matter, is that they all appeared unpainted and that civic squares would flash in the sunlight with brilliant white marble. However, these white marble structures and statues are a byproduct of the age of the item. As it turns out, the statues and temples are only white because the paint faded from them over time. And of course, the reason we believe that these buildings and statues were pure white is because of the way films and television shows show these items and settings. Originally, they were incredibly bright and vibrant. Many of these statues also had bronze attachments and black stone inlaid in white to make eyes stand out more. And that's our list. Did we leave out any misconceptions about ancient Greece that you know about? Well, let us know in the comments below. Please remember to subscribe and tap the bell button to be notified when new videos are uploaded. Thanks for watching.
Don't forget to like us and subscribe for more elite facts.